Hi, I'm going to talk today about my channel and what's on it and why I do it. And regular viewers will know this already, but it's for a publication that asked for such information, and I thought I'd make it into a video. So let's start with this. One thing about Oxford is the saying, "The countryside invades the city." Aided by parks and college gardens, I think it's fair to say that the countryside seems to come into the city, even as far as Broad Street. It doesn't quite reach Carfax, which is the official centre, but it's close. And there are numerous ways from the city centre into green space that are only 15 minutes walk or so from Carfax. What I'm going to do now is to include some clips that I took this morning of a walk from the Northern Ring Road into the city centre, and you'll see what I mean. See whether you can work out where I started, what I passed en route, and what my route was. And I think that makes the point rather nicely. once you've used one of these routes to get out of the city and into the countryside, it sometimes seems to go on for miles, even if it is a little bit parched right now. And I started my channel partly to show this off. I've always done a lot of walking wherever I've lived. When I was living in Athens, I ended up knowing Athens better than most of the residents did. Perhaps an average of 2 to 3 hours a day in good weather is what I do. And now that we have YouTube and easily available video cameras, why not record my walks? Some viewers like the videos because they say they're very calming, and it really pleased me when I saw that in the comments. And 2 even said they fell asleep while watching them, and I think that's a huge compliment because it shows that they're relaxing. I've tried to make them same sort of spirit as watching scenery pass on a train. It doesn't matter much if you miss a little bit, but you'll see some interesting things, and you'll get lulled into a sense of calm by the constant passage. And then there's exercise. If I can persuade someone to walk to Ifley Lock, for example, with a video that shows exactly how long such a walk takes, or to the Fishes pub in Hinksey, I've shown that it isn't far at all. Look at my Willow Lane walks to Hinksey, and they only take 10 to 15 minutes. And then you're in another world. You're off the commotion of the Botley Road, and you're into some lovely countryside, a great pub, and you've got a jumping off point for the hills around you and the Chilswell path and so on. There's lovely scenery, healthy exercise, and some very nice places to go and have a beer or a latte or whatever at the end of the walk. And also, and this is an important point, especially perhaps for the academics, the 19th century mathematician Henri Poincaré said legs are the wheels of thought. And all he meant was that walking stimulates thought, stimulates you having ideas, makes you have ideas. And this seems to be backed up by modern neurological research. It seems that walking stimulates bits of the brain that handle navigation and memory, and strengthens the flow of information between these and other areas. Basically, it helps you think. So it's a good thing. So I keep putting up lots of countryside walks. I want to show the Oxford countryside in various seasons too, and various weather conditions. I hope viewers will watch the summer videos during the winter as a source of canned sunshine as well as calm. So I've been taking advantage of this summer, as I tried to do last summer, to grab as many long sunny countryside walks as I can and have them ready for the winter. Don't use a phone to watch them. Get the biggest computer screen you've got, or the biggest TV screen you've got. Turn its intensity up to maximum, June, and watch that. Well, sadly, nice countryside isn't the only thing that I show. In an ideal Oxford, the university would have got together with planners and residents and used its enormous knowledge of aesthetics and architectural design over the centuries to help choose a design for the Castle Mill Flats. Those are the horrible buildings overlooking Port Meadow that have been compared to warehouses in an industrial suburb of Warsaw. But in this Oxford, the university just said, "Bugger you residents, we don't care." And we got the Polish warehouses. And we're stuck with them until somebody decides that they've outlasted their design life and can be demolished without wasting too much money. Similarly, in an ideal Oxford, we'd not have the university pasting letters up in Little Clarendon Street threatening legal action against rough sleepers sleeping under the so-called undercroft, the underhang under the buildings. And in an ideal Oxford, the council might actually clean up Friars Entry rather than just letting it rot. So some of my walks, I've walked round Oxford squalor spots and recorded these too. Indeed, I did a video on Saturday about why Gloucester Green Market isn't as popular as it ought to be, and part of that was a look at the squalor of Friars Entry. And I've done videos on the attitude to homelessness, the social brutality in Little Clarendon Street, why George Street is so horrible, why Hythe Bridge Street is so horrible, an abandoned shops trail, and one or two other things of that nature. On a more pleasant note, Oxford has got loads of parades and processions. Some, such as Insignia, are essentially private. And can only be watched by people like me. But others, like Pride, Corpus Christi and the Interfaith Friendship Walk, can be walked in, and I've videoed those too. And then Oxford keeps on throwing up strange sights. No, I'm afraid I don't think they're feeling too well. Some of these are well known, such as the Headington Shark and the now repainted dinosaur on the back wall of Keble College. And others are less well known. But they keep occurring. And it seems to be terribly easy in Oxford to stumble across things that you don't expect to stumble across, like, yesterday, for example, I came across a rehearsal for the Shakespeare play Twelfth Night in the middle of the university parks. And then something else, rather different sort of something, is history. Oxford is so old that the past interpenetrates the present in all sorts of ways. people work in ancient rooms. I once found a book in the Headington Oxfam store, and it was printed in ancient Greek. I think it must have been a tutorial for some text that was well known at the time and to be learnt possibly by undergraduates. And the left-hand side of each page was blank for the student reading the book to write in. And there were annotations in a mixture of English and Latin in old-fashioned, I think it was copperplate, very nice, rather spidery handwriting in faded ink. And then there were more modern annotations to those annotations. And then there were even more modern annotations in what looked like an early version of biro. I think the first biro was commercially produced sometime in the 50s. And I have a feeling that those latest annotations were in that. So it was layers of history on top of other layers of history. And Oxford is like that. You still see people in the Bodleian staff working in the so-called stairwells, the rooms with the names of academic subjects in Latin over the top that were built around the school's quad in 1620 or so. The city church, the Church of St Michael at the North Gate, during the pandemic, not long after it started, they put up a notice on the main entrance to the church, and it just said, very simply, "We survived the Black Death, and we survived the Great Plague, and we shall survive COVID." And that's Oxford. Oxford and its history. And finally, a nod to the geography. East Oxford, you could, and by East Oxford I mean anything east of the station really, you could regard as largely shaped by the university. West Oxford is lower lying and more prone to floods, and it has a huge number of streams running through it. The book Three Men in a Boat by Jerome K. Jerome, written about 100 years ago, talks about how Thames boatmen find the Oxford Thames and the Oxford streams almost impossible to learn. And you can see that if you look at a map and do a bit of image processing to turn up the blue bits to maximum and to grey out the others, and you'll see just how many streams there are and how tangled they are. And very few people know about them. I don't think many people know what goes under each of the bridges in Botley Road. But they've been a big force in shaping Oxford. And sometimes they do more than just shape it, as when one of the roads gets flooded. So that too is something that I want to show, because I encounter these streams a lot on my walks. And the same could go for all sorts of other forces, but I'll talk more about those in a future video. See you next time.